Will you be working with him at that time? No, I think we should have finished the film by then. I'll be working with him from March through the end of June or something like that. Do you ever stop working? Oh God, yes. I sometimes don't do a picture for a year and a half. One March morning, in 2007, Hollywood Truth magazine stunning the entire entertainment industry with a headline that took everyone's breath away. Secret Journal of Burt Lancaster found Lancaster, the legendary star of From Here to Eternity, and a man who once marched alongside Martin Luther King Jr. in historic protests had left behind a final haunting document. But it wasn't a memoir, it was a list 14 names, all towering icons of Hollywood's golden age. And Burt didn't mince words. He called them the most vicious people Hollywood ever produced. He exposed the dark sides of those once celebrated by the world. Who were they? And what could drive a man as principled as Burt Lancaster to pen what reads like a final curse before death? To answer those questions, we begin with the first name on his list and the one he deemed the cruelest of all, Kirk Douglas. 1. Kirk Douglas, a predator beneath human skin. Kirk Douglas, a legend known for playing dazzling heroes on the silver screen, allegedly hid a true monster within. According to Burt Lancaster's Secret Journal, Douglas wasn't just a star. He was a ruthless manipulator who would crush anything in his way to preserve his power. Burt unflinchingly called him a predator beneath human skin, a man who would stoop to any level to destroy those who dared to oppose him. Douglas allegedly didn't stop at manipulating casting rooms or pressuring producers. He also abused his power by acting inappropriately toward young actresses. One chilling account shared by Burt involved actress Lisa Avery, who was cut from a major project in 1959 simply because she declined a private dinner invitation from Douglas. This wasn't coincidence. It was a deliberate act of punishment. One example, in a pattern of exploitation and control Douglas allegedly maintained throughout his career. Beyond leveraging fame and influence to control others, Douglas is said to have used illegal substances as tools of manipulation, buying, distributing, and using them to force directors, producers, and co-stars into obedience. Anyone who dared defy him faced brutal consequences, being removed from projects or pushed on into dangerous situations where silence was the only survival. Kirk Douglas, Burt claimed, was no mere Hollywood icon. He was a monster, willing to destroy anyone who stood in the way of his reign. And if you think Kirk Douglas's story is already too cruel, brace yourself for what follows. Natalie Wood, a woman whose fragile beauty concealed a cunning strategist, master of manipulation. 2. Natalie Wood, the master manipulator who cried on cue. Behind the fragile image of Natalie Wood, the woman renowned for her hauntingly sad eyes, lay a ruthless manipulator who would stop at nothing to maintain her power and influence. According to Burt Lancaster, Natalie once cornered a fellow actor in a difficult situation, just to have him removed from a project because she didn't get along with him. She staged a fainting spell right in the middle of the set, halting production for 10 full hours, all to pressure the producer into firing the actor. Her manipulation tactics created a culture of fear. No one dared speak out, terrified that defiance could mean career ruin or worse. Burt also hinted that Natalie Wood's mysterious death in 1981 wasn't an accident, but rather a price she paid for the deceit and schemes she had sown. A journalist from The Hollywood Reporter revealed that just weeks before her death, Natalie had allegedly threatened to destroy the career of a close friend if they didn't comply with her demands. Her death on that yacht became a black stain on Hollywood's history. As whispers swirled and her web of lies and manipulation unraveled, Burt Lancaster wrote, "The sea didn't kill her. It only concealed what she left behind on shore." Natalie Wood's demise wasn't merely the tragic end of a Hollywood life. It was, in Burt's view, the inevitable consequence of a lifetime spent weaving dangerous And if Natalie's story already chills you, don't look away just yet, because next comes Mickey Rooney, a man with a friendly, approachable facade who allegedly harbored an unthinkably cruel streak. 3. Mickey Rooney, the verbal sadist behind the smile. Mickey Rooney was known for lighthearted roles and a charming screen presence. But according to Burt Lancaster's journal, behind the scenes, he was a verbal sadist, someone who relished tearing others down. Rooney would routinely mock background actors right in front of the entire crew over trivial matters, like hairstyles or clothing. He didn't just humiliate people. Burt wrote he enjoyed watching them crumble before his eyes, then smiled like he'd won some perverse victory. Throughout his career, Mickey Rooney wasn't just infamous for his temper. He was also, Burt alleged, a serial abuser in his marriages. Lancaster claimed Rooney forced his wives to work like servants within their own home, subjecting them to emotional bondage and controlling their every move through fear and violence. Rooney's marriages weren't tales of romance, but rather dark power plays where he broke his partners down until they had nothing left to resist. One of the most terrifying accounts came from 197, when Rooney slapped his wife on a film set because she was behind schedule. The blow left her physically and emotionally damaged. His string of failed marriages, Burt asserted, weren't merely heartbreaks. They were chapters in a long history of domestic abuse. His victims caught in a cycle of control and violence had no escape. With such offenses, Rooney didn't just ruin his cause, he left behind psychological scars in the lives of those closest to him. Poor Elizabeth Taylor. The storm behind violet eyes. Next on the list is the fourth name, Elizabeth Taylor, the powerful icon of Hollywood. In 1962, during the filming of Cleopatra at Cineta Studios in Rome, Taylor locked herself in her dressing room and refused to let anyone in, simply because a co-star wore a dress of the same color as hers. The production was forced to shut down for 14 hours as she dealt with her irrational fury. When the director asked her to return to set, she hurled a glass of wine at his face, leaving the crew in stunned silence. Taylor wasn't just a famous star. She was a queen of manipulation, orchestrating not only her films, but also those around her. But that was only the beginning of her darker schemes. In the 1960s, during her marriage to Richard Burton, Taylor allegedly didn't just share his spotlight. She took over his career and leveraged their union to exert even greater control over Hollywood. Producers to her will and her marriages, from Mike Todd to Burton, weren't fairy tales but calculated power transactions. She used deception to strip men of their wealth and used that power to influence everything around her. Up next on the list is the fifth figure, one of the most legendary stars in Hollywood history. But behind his illustrious career was a shadow just as ruthless. 5. Spencer Tracy. Always blaming others. In his secret journal, Burt Lancaster described Spencer Tracy as a devil in the dressing room, a man who always kept a storm of rage ready behind every drink. Tracy's drunkenness wasn't a coincidence. It was a weapon, a calculated tool of terror used to control those around him. He didn't just drink, he drank to hurt. Burt wrote, painting a portrait of a man who wielded fear and violence to manipulate everyone on set. Tracy was not only known for his deep and nuanced roles, but also for allegedly committing sexual assault and physical abuse right on the film set. In one incident in 1961, during the filming of Judgment at Nuremberg, he shattered a liquor bottle on a makeup table simply because the makeup artist had made a minor mistake. But that wasn't the end of it. Tracy also used his power to manipulate and intimidate colleagues, forcing them to comply with his demands, even going as far as violating the privacy of co-stars to maintain psychological control. At his core, Spencer Tracy was not a beloved actor, but a ruthless enforcer of power, an unrelenting manipulator who destroyed anyone who dared resist. He could play the saint with a smile, Burt concluded, then threatened suicide just to force a co-star to obey his will. Next on the list is a man with a trustworthy appearance, but behind it lies a cold, ruthless monster who struck fear into everyone around him. 6. James Stewart, the judging manipulator. James Stewart, with his image as the kind-hearted man in It's a Wonderful Life and the righteous hero in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, became a symbol of decency in the hearts of the American public. But according to Burt Lancaster, behind the mask of that hero was a cold and calculating judge, someone who would use every trick in the book to protect his position. One of Stewart's habits, Lancaster claimed, was quietly taking notes on his co-stars' mistakes during filming, then secretly handing those notes to the director after the day's shoot. This silent sabotage created an atmosphere of fear and unease as actors felt constantly watched and judged, never knowing when they might be next. But Stewart's cruelty didn't stop there. One of the most shocking tactics Burt revealed occurred in 1957 when Stewart refused to appear alongside a black actor. He didn't express open anger. Instead, he cleverly blamed it on script requirements, leaving those around him too afraid to speak out. Stewart didn't just manipulate with status. He used deeply underhanded methods. Burt claimed that he went as far as forging documents to accuse actors who dared to oppose him. With a single fake sheet of paper,